Bienvenidos, aloha, welcome into Sunset Rewind, coming at you this week with another episode on Zoom. I'm your host, Alex Crawford, and with me, as always, former Oregon State tight end Howard Kroom. Howard, we are through game number 5, week number 4, almost ready for Sunset League play to begin. Before we get into this week's games, though, take a minute, follow us on social media at Sunset_Rewind on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and most importantly, and this is exciting, this is fun to say, buy our magazine. Howard, you and I, we got our hands on it, flipping through it. It's available at your local home game, Sunset League home game. Buy a copy. Howard, what'd you think of the magazine?
I loved it. You know, there's a write-up in there about every team, everybody's pictures in there. It's something, like I keep saying, I wish I had something like that to commemorate each of my high school seasons. So it's definitely worth grabbing at your local home game.
Yeah, most importantly, buying a copy of the Sunset Rewind magazine supports local high school football, a cause obviously we all believe in. Let's jump right into the game, starting off with the team at the top of the Sunset League standings, the Corona Del Mar Sea Kings, 5-0, a 45-27 win on the road against San Juan Hills. And right now, Howard, Corona Del Mar firing on all cylinders. They win 7-3 last week, then they come out and drop 45 points this week. They can beat you in a variety of ways.
Well, they're a talented team, and for me, it all starts with the quarterback, David Razor. He's got a lot of weapons that he utilizes. Max Lane, John Tipton, Cooper Hoke, these guys are reliable receivers, but I'm really asking myself, at what point can we start talking about David Razor for Offensive Player of the Year in Sunset League? He's got close to 20 touchdowns, only a couple of picks. Now he's taking RPOs and design runs 50 yards to the house. I mean, what doesn't he do? He's excellent. He was second team All-League last year, only as a sophomore. Now he's a junior. And, man, he's looking elite out there. He's a guy that put CDM in contention for the top of the Sunset League standings throughout the rest of the year. And now they've gotten back Evan Sanders, who's a dynamic, dangerous back. The sky's the limit for CDM.
Evan Sanders, running back, 19 carries, 156 yards, and a touchdown. And head coach Dan O'Shea had high praise for Sanders when we talked to him this week.
I mean, in the 11 years we've been here, we've never had a better running back than Evan Sanders. And he just changed the whole complexion of our offense. And he just has this, it's weird. Running backs, you can't coach. I mean, either you see it or you don't in when to cut, when to set up your blocks. It's just such a natural, innate gift. And the guys that have it, you're just blown away.
In addition to the offense, defense has been reliable all season for CDM. They've only given up a few touchdowns on the season. Against San Juan Hills, there was a critical point in the fourth quarter where it was 4th and goal from the 1-yard line. San Juan Hills was about to punch it in. It was 17-7, so it really would have made it a close game, and CDM came up with the big stop. It energized their team, got the offense the ball back. So not only is the offense producing, but they rely on their defense as well.
CDM on a bye week this upcoming week, and then we get a real test when CDM takes on Los Al to open up Sunset League play. That's going to be really fun, and I keep saying it, and each week it keeps happening. I can't wait to see how far CDM can go, because they have been not a revelation, but just a bit of a surprise how good they really are. So I'm excited to see how deep they can go, and if they actually can win league. Like you said, can David Razor take home Offensive Player of the Year honors? I think right now his numbers are there.
Well, maybe CDM has been a surprise to us and some of the folks who slept on him, but we know that nobody in that locker room is surprised by the 5-0 start and the dominance, and especially Coach O'Shea, because they put in the work. You know, they're a hard-nosed group, and so this is what they expected to do.
Let's go down to the Edison Chargers. They had a signature win on the season, 42-0 against the San Clemente Tritons. Coach Jeff Grady, he had high praise for their senior running back, Troy Fletcher, who had 3 touchdown runs, and he's been tearing it up for the Chargers. Let's hear what Coach Grady had to say about Mr. Fletcher.
He's just like, I don't know, he's like a coach's dream in a way, because you know exactly what you're going to get every day. He's always the same guy. You're going to get his best effort. What I love, I mean, we all love about him is he practices the way he plays on practice.
Troy Fletcher's another guy that's going to want a piece of that Offensive Player of the Year trophy. And I know he's not a guy that's doing it for the individual accolades. He's a team-first kind of a player, but the numbers that he's putting up, Edison, they've relied on him to score upwards of 5 touchdowns in one game this season. So he's as reliable as could be for Coach Grady. But the kid I've been super impressed with week after week is Parker Awad. He's a quarterback, junior quarterback, first year in the offense, and every single week he's looking stronger. This week he found multiple receivers, was over 300 yards passing, threw for a touchdown, scrambled a couple of times, and used his legs to pick up first downs. He's a guy that's coming into his own, and it has the Edison offense clicking at the right time. They're 3-2, but the 2 losses were against Trinity League teams. They've gotten better throughout the season, and I asked myself, when you got Edison playing like this, when you got CDM playing like this, you got the talent of Los Al, how do you win a league game in Sunset League? Everybody is killer. Everybody is tough. And the way Edison is playing, they're going to be hard to get out, and they're going to be hard for everybody to beat.
Awad, just a junior, and he's got some senior receivers like Nico Brown that he's really developed chemistry with. Our reporter Jonathan Ortiz caught up with Nico Brown after the win against San Clemente and asked him about his relationship with Parker Awad.
Yeah, he's a great kid, and he studies film. He plays hard and everything. He's a hard worker, and everything he does is good. And I've really created a good bond with him, and we have a good feel for each other and good connection.
In addition to Nico Brown, Tucker Tripp's been balling. Tyler Hampton is back after missing a few games, caught a touchdown, and in their Sunset League opener against Newport Harbor, they're going to get another modern-day transfer, Ashton Hurley, with the team for the first time. So it's just weapons galore for Coach Grady, for Parker Awad. And as a fan, Howard, of Sunset League football, I'm licking my chops at some of these matchups to see how these teams finish and how they play against each other. While we're over here singing the praises of the offense, I know the defense really stood out to you and everybody else who saw that game on Friday.
Well, the first 3 possessions of the game for the defense came up with takeaways. Peyton Gregory had a 99-yard scoop and score fumble recovery. Dom Lopez got an interception. Hudson Letterman was a part of a takeaway. These are guys that are heavily relied on by Edison, and when Edison needed a big play, they came up big. 3 guys who are making their case for all Sunset League. Just absolute dominant performance from the linebacking core in the front 7 of Edison, and they put pressure on the quarterback and run game all night.
As I said, Edison, they have a bye this week. Most teams do, and then they open up Sunset League play on Thursday night, next Thursday night, Capshaw Field against the Newport Harbor Sailors. And so another team that's just rolling right now. They've got it clicking. They played a really tough preseason schedule, and like we talked about since week 1, Howard, I think it's going to pay off for the Chargers.
I agree. They're going to be ready to play anybody. They've already got a couple losses under their belt. They've gotten better from them, and they're going to be tough down the stretch.
Another team from Huntington Beach that's 3-2, the Oilers. They kept the Oil vs. Water trophy on Main Street with a 45-13 win over Marina on Thursday, but they still have a lot to clean up heading in to Sunset League play. 230 yards of penalties against the Marina Vikings in their Thursday night win.
Well, despite the penalties, Marina was just overmatched. Huntington Beach defense was all over the run game, all over the quarterback. They lived in the backfield of Marina. Marina couldn't get anything going, couldn't get comfortable. And some usual suspects for Huntington Beach came up big as well. Joe Carroll, he's come on very strong as of late on the defensive side. Jeremy Carpenter, and EJ Riedrich, who's always has a big night. And in addition to those 3 guys, Nate Tawanu'u is quickly becoming a star here in the Sunset League. It seems like every time Huntington Beach plays, he's got a handful of tackles. He's come up with multiple takeaways at this point. He had a fumble recovery for a touchdown against Marina. He's a guy that's always around the football. He swarms to the ball, and he's somebody that offenses have to account for when they're drawing up their game plan.
Nate Tawanu'u is the real deal on defense. 2 defensive touchdowns, and we're only halfway through the season. Our reporter, Eric Ramos, caught up with Nate Tawanu'u after the game and had him walk us through that scoop and score TD.
Can you take me through that play where you returned the ball for a touchdown?
Oh, okay. So what happened was I was supposed to blitz, and the running back came up, fumbled on the ball. I grabbed it. I thought the play was dead, but then my friend AJ pushed me in my back, and I kept running, and I got that touchdown.
And Howard, I know you mentioned EJ Riedrich on defense. He plays both ways. He plays running back, and I think a bright spot that maybe Coach Brown and everyone didn't really expect to be so strong this season is the Oilers' run game. Coach Brown had really high praise for EJ Riedrich when we talked to him this week at both the running back and linebacker position.
EJ is just a football player, man. He he doesn't want to come off the field ever. We're trying to get him breaks, and he gets mad when I pull him out and put another running back in, especially after like a big defensive drive, try to get him some water, and he's like, "No, I'm good, coach, I'm good." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, when you've got a weapon like that at running back, it makes everything else that you do on offense a little bit easier. And we know that this offense is really fueled by A.J. Perez, senior quarterback. He's got a big arm. He knows the offense. He's comfortable in it. It's his second year with getting substantial playing time, and he's just looking more comfortable every week. And it seems like every time Huntington Beach gets a win and we look at the stat line, it's not 100 yards and 1 touchdown for A.J. Perez. It's 250 yards, 300 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns. He's usually running a touchdown in with his legs. So he's a guy that's a major weapon. He gets everything started for Huntington Beach, and he's a guy Coach Brown relies on heavily, and he's delivered in the first 5 games. So I'm really excited to see how he progresses through the Sunset League competition, because I think he can really elevate Huntington Beach to surprise some people.
The Oilers are 3-2, and keep in mind those 2 losses, 1 possession losses. They could easily be 5-0. And a big question, Howard, I know that you and I had going into the season was we knew theoretically who the top dogs were in the Sunset League: Los Al, Edison, and CDM. Who's gonna challenge? Who's gonna not necessarily be in that 4th spot, but who is in that 4th spot that could bump up and challenge for one of those top 3? Right now, it's looking like it's the Oilers.
100%. And I know when I look at the first 5 games of the season, you look down and say the Oilers had an opportunity to actually be 4-1 or 5-0. I know a lot of teams feel that way, but they were truly a couple of plays away, maybe a quarter or 2 away from that. So they're right on the brink of being really good, and Sunset League will give them an opportunity to show what they're made of.
Now here's a result that I'm shocked by, not because of the opponent, but because of the way the game started and then the way it finished. Los Al, they dropped to 4-1, first loss of the season. They didn't lose at all last season, so first loss since the 2019 year, 42-41 to Santa Margarita. Los Al led 14-0 at halftime. Santa Margarita scored 28 points in the 3rd quarter, never looked back. Howard, are you surprised by this loss at all?
You know, the only thing that surprises you is that Los Al didn't find a way to put up some points in the second half, just because you know the weapons that they have. They're such a dynamic offense. They've got a running back. They've got multiple receivers who are going to college. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So when you see them get shut out in the second half, that's surprising. But it's not something that, I'm shaken by at all. I know Los Al, they're not shaken by this. Hey, everybody's entitled to a bad couple of quarters, okay? They have so much talent on that Los Al team on offense and on defense that they're not going to be easy to beat for anybody. I don't care if it's another Trinity League team. I don't care if it's a Sunset League team. This is still a team that I see going deep into November, CIF, state championship aspirations, and maybe they needed to get one loss out the way and learn what that feels like. This is a group, like you said, they didn't lose any games last year, so this happens. They're going to bounce back from it. And in my mind, I believe that Coach Fenton, Malachi Nelson, Makai Lemon, the leaders on this team, they're not going to be shaken at all, because think about it. They had one of the hardest preseason schedules in local high school football. They played Buchanan out in Clovis. They played Lincoln from San Diego and Santa Margarita. Most people are going 0-3 in those games. They went 2-1. One of them was going into a hostile environment, and they had to come back and win. So these are things that are setting Los Al up for the grueling CIF and state championship run that they're going to go on in November.
Yeah, just to make a cross-sport comparison, in March Madness in the NCAA tournament, it's so rare to have an undefeated team continue through and win the tourney. Sometimes there are good losses. In Los Al, they had a 10-game win streak. Like I said, they hadn't lost since 2019. So I know it's an oxymoron, but I think it was a good loss. I think it's a learning experience for a team that has their sights set not on the preseason, not even on Sunset League play, but on the postseason. So sure, maybe I'm looking for silver linings and putting a positive spin on it, but I really think it's a loss that they're going to learn from. They're an experienced and talented enough group to do something with this L.
Well, you learn things from losses that you can't learn from wins. That's just a fact. Nobody wants to lose, but like we said, they're going to be better for it, and I wouldn't want to play them. I wouldn't want to play them if I'm a Sunset League team. I wouldn't want to play them if I'm an any league team, because there's just so much talent, so many weapons. You're not going to keep Malachi Nelson off the board for too many halves of football. It's just not going to happen. He's too talented, has too many receivers. So Los Al is going to be tough for the rest of the season. Believe that.
Yeah, well, they have a week off, bye week for them, and then, like we talked about, taking on the Sea Kings. Huge matchup to open up Sunset League play, something we're really excited about. And it's back-to-back tough games for the Griffins, CDM, and then Edison. So we're really going to get to see how those top dogs in the Sunset League, how things shake out to start Sunset League play. Let's move on to Newport Harbor. They lose their second game in a row, drop to 1-3, 23-13 loss on the road to the Trabuco Hills Mustangs. Sailors led 13-0, and the Mustangs scored 23 unanswered points to win the game. Second loss in a row for Newport, as I said. We asked Coach Lofthouse about the mistakes, the penalties, and the Sailors shooting themselves in the foot to lose these last two games. Here's what Coach Lofthouse had to say.
When you play good football teams, you make these mistakes, and guess what? Good football teams make you pay. And we're in a position right now where in the preseason, the teams we play are very good, and we have to just be better.
All right, Howard, I'm going to ask you straight up, what do the Sailors need to do to start winning?
Well, the first thing they have to do is they got to clean up the mental mistakes, the missed assignments, the penalties. Those are the things that you can control if you're the Newport Harbor Sailors. You got to get those things tightened up, because if you're constantly, if you miss an assignment on the offensive line, you miss a block, now the running back's in the backfield and it's 2nd and 13 instead of 2nd and 5 because we lost yards. Or if it's a holding penalty on first down, now it's 1st and 20, we're replaying the down, and you just can't be behind the sticks. So that's the obvious stuff that needs to get cleaned up. The other thing that I look at when I look at the story of the game for the Sailors, Trabuco Hills scored 3 touchdowns. And in all reality, those 3 touchdowns came on 3 big plays. One of them was a missed assignment or a blown coverage in the defensive backfield that sparked a huge touchdown for Trabuco Hills. Another one was a missed alignment, or somebody didn't fill their gap and the running back goes up the middle for 60 yards and a touchdown. That's a fluke play. And the third touchdown was a blocked field goal that was returned 80 yards for a touchdown. These are 3 almost mental errors. 3 guys, 3 missed assignments that lead to 21 points, and the Sailors can't recover from it. So it wasn't a bad showing from the front 7, from the run game. Trabuco Hills tried to pound the rock, and it often took them 4 downs to get a first down. So there were things that the Sailors did that were good, and they just have to hold on to those things. And the last point for me is on offense, in the third quarter, there was some stuff, the Sailors coaches really found some stuff that worked. They put Cashton Hingham into the boundary on the single receiver side, and Trabuco Hills didn't have an answer, whether it was a screen, getting Grayson Simon out on the corner. Trabuco Hills would try to bring pressure. Nick Kim was going over the top to Cashton Hingham. It was beautiful offense, but the drive was stalled because of penalties. So there's glimpses. Newport Harbor looks great at times. They just have to find a way to hang on and hold on to those positive moments.
Yeah, 1-3. We know that they could right now be, 3-1 or 2-2, 2 close losses, 2 second half losses. And we know, Howard, how much talent is on the Sailors. 6 players in Dan Albano's OC Varsity Top 150. We were so high, I still am high, on the wide receiver duo of Cashton Hingham and Josiah Lamarque. I don't think we've got to really see them at full strength this season. I know we haven't physically because they've been banged up, but more so we haven't got to see the offense clicking for a full game. And when we do, like you pointed out against Trabuco Hills, there were times where I was fully confident the Sailors were going to win, and I said, okay, it's clicking now. They've got it going, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. Against Capo Valley last week, they were behind the sticks on 44% of their offensive snaps. So whenever the Sailors figure that out, if they do, I think they could come in to Sunset League and make noise and upset a team. I think they have what it takes to pull off some upsets. I use that word loosely. But they do have to figure it out, and it doesn't get any easier for them. They take on J. Sarah on Friday in Davidson Field before they open up Sunset League play.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure it out in a hurry, and competition is going to get tougher. So it's harder to figure stuff out as the competition goes up. But I believe they have the senior leadership. They've got the talent. And so if anybody can rise to the occasion, I think it's this group.
6th team in the Sunset League, the Fountain Valley Barons. They had a much-needed bye week. They sit at 1-3, and they wrap up their non-league schedule at Aliso Niguel next week. We had a chance to chat with head coach David Gutierrez. And Howard, you said that there were some things he gave you that got you excited about the Barons' second half of the season.
Well, Coach Gutierrez always gets me going, always gets me in a football ready. He's a guy he's a process guy. He's laying the foundation over at Fountain Valley. And And I asked him what was the message to the team, throughout the bye week. And he basically said that this is a team that we have to play together as a team. We might not have 15 Division I guys. We might not have, the most amazing standout individual players, but as a team, we're tough. So that's what he's trying to bring. He said selflessness, continuous fight, and a bend but don't break attitude. That's the stuff that he sees in his team, and those are the things that he's trying to instill. And he mentioned some guys that are senior leaders that really set the culture and hold guys accountable and put in the work and kind of set the tone for the team. And those guys were Tyler Nowicki, Drew Reyes, and Ivan Benitez. He says those guys are really the ones that get everybody else going and set the tone for practice. And then he mentioned a couple of juniors as well that are cornerstones of the program that he relies on, in addition to those seniors, to kind of carry the torch and to be big performers in practice and leaders. Those guys were Ben Pham, Kane Elroy, Hercules Winrath, and Scott Peschke. These are guys that Coach Gutierrez believes in as, like I said, cornerstones of the program, and the way that they approach their work, the way that they bring the physicality, the discipline, the continuous fight. He has big plans for those guys, and he thinks they're all going to explode onto the scene throughout Sunset League and especially next year when they're seniors.
Yeah, I got to chat with a few of the Fountain Valley players during the Sunset Rewind magazine photo shoot, Nick Mendez and Drew Reyes, and getting to be around the program just a little bit, getting to talk to Coach Gutierrez a little bit. I'm not just blowing smoke. I believe in what they're building, and I really love that these kids, they've stuck through multiple coaching changes. They've stuck through being the bottom team in a really, really tough, I think the best public school league in the state. They stuck it out. They grind it out. They've won one game this season. I think they'll win at least one more. And so, yeah, I just want to go on record as saying I believe in the Barons, and I respect what they're building there.
Well, they're building a program, and it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in one season, but you need a guy like Coach Gutierrez, and you need those seniors that he named and those juniors. That's a collection of guys that they do it the right way, and they're the guys that you need to build a program around. So I think the Barons are in good hands.
Well, that does it for this week's recap episode. Follow us on social media at Sunset_Rewind. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and pick up a copy of the Sunset Rewind magazine at your next home game. It supports local high school football. Howard, this has been fun. We're right around the corner from Sunset League play. 2 games, most of the teams on bye. 4 of the 6 teams on a bye week. The Sailors and the Barons both play this week, and then we are right in to Sunset League play, baby, and I can't wait. I'm excited.
Well, we got some good football coming up over the next few weeks. Like you mentioned earlier, Los Al, they've got CDM, the first Sunset League game. They've got Edison, their second Sunset League game. So J. Sarah, Newport Harbor this week. I can't wait. And every week we're learning more and more about the Sunset League. I think this will be a week where we learn some stuff as well.
Well, thanks for tuning in again for the Sunset League players, parents, and coaches. From my broadcast partner, Howard Kroom, this is Alex Crawford saying from the 405 to PCH, from Saddleback to the Pacific Ocean, you've been watching Sunset Rewind. Thanks for tuning in.